It was a Saturday afternoon like any other. Quiet, slow. The kind of day where time stretches between chores and glances at the clock. My husband had left early for another urgent client meeting, which lately felt more routine than rare. I had grown used to the silence he left behind. It used to be a peaceful silence. Now, it just felt empty. The air was thick with summer heat, the kind that clings to your skin. I was barefoot, folding laundry in the living room, reruns murmuring in the background. That's when I heard his laugh, low, amused, careless. He walked in, sweaty from his run, shirt clinging to his chest, headphones still around his neck. My husband's younger brother had moved in 2 weeks ago, just for the summer, or so he said. He was supposed to be some kind of tech intern downtown. What he really was a presence, one I couldn't ignore. "You always fold towels like a hotel maid," he joked, tossing his keys onto the table. I smirked without looking up. Better than letting them sit in a heap for days. He walked behind the couch, passing close. Too close. Not inappropriate, but close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating off his skin. It should have been nothing. But lately, everything felt like something. There were glances that lasted just a second too long. Casual compliments that made me feel something I hadn't felt in a long time. Seen. I'd catch him watching me cook, watching me bend to pick up a sock, watching the way I tucked hair behind my ear. And I noticed him noticing. More than I should have. I turned to grab the remote that had fallen under the coffee table. As I bent forward, I didn't hear him approach, but I felt him. Right behind me. Close. I froze, not out of fear, but awareness. My breath hitched, and for a moment, the room felt completely still. My fingers closed around the remote, but I didn't move. Not right away. He didn't touch me, didn't say a word, but the space between us pulsed with tension. When I finally stood upright, slowly, he was already walking away, cool, casual, as if nothing had happened. But something had. That night, as I lay in bed beside my husband, his back turned, phone glowing in his hand, I kept replaying that moment. That nearness. That silence. It was innocent. Harmless. Except it wasn't. And I couldn't stop wondering. What would have happened if I hadn't stood up? After that afternoon, something shifted. Not openly, not in a way you could name, but in the quiet spaces between actions. The kind of shift you feel, not speak of. He and I never talked about the moment in the living room. We didn't need to. It hung there, thick and unspoken. Every time we shared a room, I began noticing the smallest things. How he lingered in doorways. How his eyes scanned me when he thought I wasn't looking. How his voice softened when we were alone. One morning, I came down in a robe, half-tied, coffee still warming in my hands. He was already at the kitchen table, shirtless, hunched over his laptop. I paused, just for a beat, and his eyes flicked up. They met mine. Held them. "Morning," he said, his voice hoarse with sleep. "Morning," I replied, quieter than usual. I turned to the sink, but I could feel his gaze, steady, deliberate. My fingers trembled slightly as I poured the coffee. I wasn't cold, but I shivered. That day, I chose a dress I hadn't worn in a while. It hugged my waist, dipped slightly in the back. Too much for an ordinary day of errands, maybe. But I wore it anyway. When I asked for help zipping it up, he stepped close, fingers grazing my spine. The zipper moved slowly, slower than it needed to. My breath caught. His hands lingered a second too long before he stepped back. "There," he murmured. "Looks good on you." I didn't thank him. I couldn't speak. My cheeks were already warm. He started finding reasons to be around, offering to help with dinner, joining me on the patio in the evenings, standing closer than necessary when we brushed past each other in narrow spaces. And I let it happen, because the truth was his attention felt good. It made me feel alive in a way I hadn't in months. My husband and I had grown quiet, functional. We still slept in the same bed, shared meals, exchanged polite words. But it was all surface. With his brother, it felt like something simmered just beneath. One night, I walked into the kitchen to find him drying dishes I hadn't asked him to clean. Our hands met over the same plate. His fingers curled over mine, firm. He didn't let go immediately. I looked up. His face was unreadable, but his eyes, there was something in them.
Desire.
Restraint. A question unasked. I pulled my hand back. Not fast, not slow. Just enough to leave the moment hanging. We said nothing. But we both knew this wasn't harmless anymore. We were standing on the edge of something, toes curled over the line. And deep down, I think we both wanted to fall. It was the rain that did it. The storm rolled in around midnight, thick sheets pounding the windows, thunder rumbling like a slow, angry drum. My husband had called earlier to say he'd be staying overnight in the city. Again. Client dinner ran late, he said. No apology. Just facts. I poured a glass of wine and curled onto the couch, letting the thunder distract me. I didn't expect company. But then I heard footsteps. He stepped into the room, damp towel draped around his shoulders, hair messy from the shower. A loose t-shirt clung to him. He looked surprised to see me still awake. Couldn't sleep, he asked, voice soft. Not with this weather, I replied, gesturing toward the window. He sat beside me. Not too close, not too far. We watched the lightning flicker across the sky. The TV was off. No music, no words. Just storm and silence. I offered him wine. He accepted. Our fingers brushed as I handed over the glass. His touch was warm, steady, too casual to be accidental. Minutes passed. Then, quietly, you look different lately.
I turned to him.
Different how? Like you're here, but not really.
His words struck something.
Not because they were bold, but because they were true. I didn't reply. He continued, slower this time. I notice things. You don't laugh much. You flinch when your phone rings. I looked down at my hands. He was watching me closely, like he was waiting for permission. I didn't mean to make things weird, he added, voice barely above a whisper. You didn't. He reached out, hesitant, testing. His fingers grazed my knee. A pause. I didn't stop him. My breath was shallow, heart loud in my ears. His hand moved, slow but sure, to my thigh. I turned toward him. Neither of us spoke. There was no dramatic kiss, no grand declaration. Just movement, silent, charged, inevitable. The first contact of his lips was soft, almost unsure. I closed the distance. My hands found his shoulders. He pulled me onto his lap. It wasn't frantic. It was slow, cautious, as if we both knew we were walking into something we couldn't walk out of. Clothes slipped away in fragments. Skin met skin. The wine glass tipped unnoticed. Rain lashed the windows, matching the rhythm we fell into. I wasn't thinking of right or wrong. I wasn't thinking at all. For the first time in a long time, I felt wanted.
Alive.
And in that moment, I gave into it, completely. When it was over, the storm was still raging outside, but the room felt impossibly still. He lay beside me, one hand resting near mine, not touching. We didn't speak. I stared at the ceiling, my chest still rising and falling with the remnants of something I couldn't name. It had happened, and nothing would ever feel quite the same again. The morning after felt colder than it should have, even in the heavy heat of July. I woke alone on the couch, the throw blanket pulled over me, the taste of wine still clinging faintly to my lips. For a moment, I could pretend it was a dream, one of those vivid, breathless things your mind conjures in the dark. But the ache in my body said otherwise. So did the silence in the kitchen. He was there, shirt on, back turned, rinsing a coffee mug like it was any other day. Like we hadn't crossed a line so sharp it might cut everything behind us. I didn't speak. Neither did he. Our eyes met only once, just long enough to confirm that whatever we'd shared last night now lived in the shadows. Unspoken. Unclaimed. He cleared his throat. I made coffee. If you want. Thanks, I said, voice quieter than I meant it to be. I poured myself a cup, hand steadier than I expected. He left the room without another word. I stood at the sink, staring out the window, The storm from last night already dried from the pavement. The world moved on like nothing had changed. But inside me, everything had. My phone buzzed. It was my husband. A voice note. I played it, holding the phone to my chest like it might shield me from what was coming. Morning, babe. Hope you slept okay. I know I've been busy lately. Just 2 more weeks of this rollout, and I'm all yours again. I love you. Tears threatened, but didn't fall.
Not yet.
He loved me, and I had betrayed him. And the worst part? I didn't know if I regretted it. I felt guilty, yes. Sick, even. But also, I felt seen. Touched.
Real.
Things I hadn't felt in months, maybe longer. I stared at my reflection in the hallway mirror, robe pulled tight, hair unbrushed, eyes tired. I looked like myself, but something had shifted behind the eyes. A fracture. A truth I couldn't unlearn. I thought about confessing. I even rehearsed it in my head. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. It'll never happen again. But every version sounded like a lie. Later that day, my husband came home with flowers. His brother barely spoke at dinner. I played my part, smiled at the right moments, nodded when spoken to. No one noticed anything. But beneath the calm, something smoldered. Guilt, confusion, desire. A memory I couldn't erase. And I realized that night wasn't a detour. It was a mirror. It didn't show me who I wanted to be. It showed me who I had already become. And now, every time I look in the mirror, I don't ask myself why it happened. I ask, what will I do next?